Season 1 begins by introducing us to Arisu, an irredeemable gamer who is glued to his computer screen. His brother walks in and chastises him for failing to show up for an interview he set up for Arisu. He informs Arisu that he is a parasite in this residence. Arisu says he'll leave if that's the case. Indeed, he leaves his house and texts his friends, Karub, who was recently fired for making out with his boss's girlfriend, and Shota, who had just skipped work for the day. When they get together, they discuss a possible zombie attack. Arisu, according to Karub, will be the one to survive because he is smart. He also tells him to stop hanging out with them and get on with his life. Despite the fact that the mood is temporarily ruined, Karub picks up Arisu and runs through the crowd. Shota photographs Arisu to commemorate his first day of independence. However, because they are in the middle of the road, they cause a traffic jam as well as a minor accident. They flee into the subway station's restroom to avoid the cops, but there is an unexpected power outage. They walk out of the station only to discover that everyone has left. They look around, but there is no one, nowhere. Even their cell phones have no signal. They talk about it, and Arisu says that maybe it's not so bad. They are not required to work, and no one will be angry or disappointed with them. However, a large building lights up and a message appears, indicating that the game will begin soon. An arrow indicates the direction they must travel. They follow the instructions and enter another building, where they follow additional instructions. They each get one phone. Shibuki, a girl, approaches them and tells them they have no choice but to play the game. Another girl joins them, and the instructions are communicated to them via their phones. The name of the first game is Dead or Alive, and the difficulty of it is 3 of clubs. To complete the stage, they must select the correct door within the time limit, which begins at 2 minutes and gradually decreases. In the first room, the girl opens one of the doors and is killed because it is the incorrect one. Karub mans up in the second room and is fortunate enough to select the correct door. The group in the next room is arguing about what they should do and who should open the next door and risk his or her life. Arisu employs his observation skills, and the game is cleared. When they exit the building, they notice a 3 of clubs card on a table. They receive a phone notification that they have been granted a visa for 3 days. A man appears and informs them that his visa expires today and that he no longer wishes to play. He is killed by a laser beam. Shibuki advises them to keep playing if they want to live. The first episode concludes with a young girl, Usagi, standing on a rooftop and looking up at a sky full of ready-to-kill lasers. The second episode begins with a glimpse into Usagi's past and shows her going rock climbing with her father. Then we'll return to Tokyo, where Chota informs Arisu that electronic devices don't work, but old-fashioned radios do on certain frequencies. Later, the 4 of them sit down to eat together. Karub inquires of Shibuki as to where she was at the time of the incident. Shibuki reveals during the conversation that she had played another game before meeting them. Karub accuses her of using the other players as bait, to which she responds that she did what she had to do to survive. Arisu remarks that it's strange that they only entered the game yesterday, but Shibuki was brought in a few days ago. They speculate, and Arisu adds that there must be a game master who organized the entire game. Shibuki believes they are in a virtual world similar to the real one, while Chota believes it is the work of God himself. Chota's leg was burned in the first game, and he is in pain. Arisu and Karub decide to join another game in order to earn more time and possibly find a doctor or learn something new about the game. They do so and are placed in a group of 10 people. One of them is Usagi. The game will be tag, and the goals will be to avoid being tagged by the person who is it and to find and touch a hidden symbol. They are given 20 minutes. The game begins, and the tagger appears to be a tall man wearing a horse mask and wielding an Uzi, walking around and shooting people. Meanwhile, Shibuki seduces Chota and tells him they must work together to survive. Back in the game, the tagger has killed half of the players. The survivors agree to work together to bring him down. Arisu and Usagi will look for the symbol while the others hunt down the tagger. While Arisu searches for the symbol, Karub and 2 other players fight the tagger. He enters a room, but there is another guard there. Furthermore, 2 players must be present to push 2 different buttons at the same time in order to clear the game. Arisu cries out for help while fighting the guard. Usagi moves from floor to floor until she reaches him. They take the guard down, press the buttons, and the game is over. Karub and another player, Aguni, have eliminated the tagger. The tagger and the other guard are both killed by a collar they wear around their necks. Karub sees the tagger's phone and it says game over. The guards have been made to play the game alongside them. Karub overhears some radio communication. He takes it from the pocket of a deceased player who was friends with Aguni and listens to a male voice say that the answer is now in their hands. The voice instructs them to return to the beach. Karub turns around, and Aguni is gone. That brings us to the end of episode 2. We see Arisu feeling guilty about the dead guard in the room at the start of episode 3. Usagi informs him that they must do anything to survive. Arisu and Karub return home and tell Chota and Shibuki about the radio and the beach. They list 3 nearby beaches and consider visiting them. Shibuki claims Chota is unable to walk and that both her and Chota's visas expire today. Karub says they'll play another game today to extend their visas and then look for that beach. They later participate in a game and visit a theme garden. Standing in front of a couple of stands, the instructions say they can use any weapon from the ones on the ground. They must also wear goggles on their heads. 7 of hearts is the difficulty. They remark that hearts are the worst because they have to play with each other's hearts, and the number 7 is quite high, making it difficult. The game is called hide and seek. One of the players will be assigned the role of a wolf, while the other 3 will be assigned the role of lambs. In the end, the person assigned as the wolf will win the game and live, while the others will be killed by the machinery fastened around their necks. As a result, it is up to the lambs to pursue the wolf. Chota is assigned as the first wolf, and they quickly realize that when they lock their eyes on each other, the role of the wolf is passed on to another player. The role of the wolf is passed from Chota to Arisu and then from Arisu to Karub as they try to figure out what to do. It eventually makes its way from Karub to Shibuki. When she becomes the wolf, she begins to flee in order to hide and survive. Arisu and Karub approach her, and Arisu becomes the wolf. He flees and hides, attempting to remove the goggles from his head but failing. The team is physically and emotionally divided, and Chota prays to God for assistance while they hurt each other with harsh words. After a few moments, they begin to recall all the wonderful times they have shared and realize they are good friends. Arisu wishes to leave the game and pass on the wolf role to someone else. But now the others are hiding from him. Karub reveals himself with only a few seconds left but does not look Arisu in the eyes. When the timer runs out, the chips explode, killing Karub, Chota, and Shibuki. In episode 4, we get to spend some time with Usagi and observe her daily activities. On a rainy day, she comes across Arisu, who is lying on the side of the road and wishes to die. We are transported to Usagi's past, when she used to climb mountain peaks with her father. She tells her father that this is the only place she can be herself. However, a scandal involving her father occurs, and he disappears. Back in the present, Arisu awakens in Usagi's territory and asks why she saved him. He, like all of his friends, wishes to die. Usagi tells him that she understands how he feels because she experienced it herself when her father died. She eventually persuades him not to let his visa expire and to take part in a new game. The game that follows will take place in a tunnel road. Arisu and Usagi board a bus, where they discover 3 other players. They inform them that they have cleared 4 games together and that they work as a team. They receive their instructions and the name of the game will be Distance. The players must arrive at their destination safely and endure the trial. They attempt to start the bus, but it lacks fuel. As a result, they must travel by foot. Takuma, one of the other players, has sprained his ankle and is unable to run. He tells his friends to go, but he will remain. The 4 other players begin running for several miles until they come across a panther. The panther pursues them and eventually reaches a player named Ryzen. The panther devours him, but the others flee. On their way, Ryzen notices a diesel-powered motorcycle. He claims that the bus back to where they started may also work because it lacks any electrical circuits and thus will not be jammed. He tells Usagi and the other player, Yamane, to flee and that he will return with the motorcycle to fuel the bus and save Takuma. Usagi and Yamane sprint forward until they hit a dead end. They talk for a while before realizing that the concrete behind them is about to collapse and flood the tunnel. They begin to run, but water quickly catches up with them and swallows Yamane. Fortunately, the bus arrives near Usagi, and she jumps aboard before the water kills her as well. The bus has been flipped on its side. When the 3 remaining players reach the top, a graffiti on the side of the bus reveals the word goal, implying that the bus was their goal all along and the distance was a metric that measured how far they were from it. That's why their phones displayed 0 while they were on the bus. The episode concludes with Arisu telling Usagi that he wants to find the mastermind of this sick game and return the world to its previous state. They ride their bikes across a bridge on their way to the beach. Arisu begins episode 5 by visiting but not entering a random game and asking the players if they have any information about the beach. Arisu and Usagi are determined to find the beach. They later split up and followed the participants into 2 separate games. They notice a few players who are wearing locker keys around their wrists. They follow them until they reach the beach, which is a large structure resembling a massive 5-star hotel. They are attacked from behind and kidnapped before being taken to the beach's hall. Several people greet them, but only one appears to be the leader. Arisu claims that they are looking for information about the game. The leader opens the door to a larger room where he is marking the cards he has received. He explains that only one person can leave this world and return to reality. To do so, one must collect all of the cards that the game awards to the players. But, because that would be impossible for a single person to accomplish, they banded together for the sole purpose of gathering all the cards and returning someone to the normal world. The beach incorporates a tier system, and each player receives points for the cards they bring in. Furthermore, the beach has 3 rules: wear a swimsuit everywhere you go. Second, all cards obtained by members belong to the beach. 3. All traitors are executed, implying that one cannot refuse to cooperate with the beach. Finally, the leader declares that for every full set of cards obtained, they will be able to return another person to the ordinary world. When Arisu and Usagi look around the small community, they get some strange looks. The beach's leader, now dubbed Hatter by the crowd, announces that he has discovered 2 new games and divides the crowd into 2 groups. Each group will have their own game. Meanwhile, one of the top-tier members puts Arisu through a test game to see if he would make a good executive for the beach. The goal of the experiment is to figure out which switch turns on a light bulb before the water levels reach an electrical circuit that will fry them all. The catch is that they can't see the light bulb while operating the switches. Arisu flips a switch and instructs another player, Kuina, to check to see if the bulb is hot. Because it is hot, the switch he flipped activated it, and thus he has the answer and clears the game. Arisu returns to the beach and runs into Usagi. Aguni and his crew arrive moments later, heavily armed. Kuina informs Arisu that these are beach militants and warns him to stay out of their way. Arisu and Aguni are fighting, but Hatter intervenes and puts an end to it. He convenes a meeting with the executives and invites Arisu to attend as well. He says in the meeting that figure cards haven't appeared anywhere, so they're probably not in the game. The 10 of Hearts is the only card they are currently missing. He also claims that his visa will expire soon and that he will participate in the next game. The episode concludes with Hatter inviting Arisu to a drink and telling him that heroes are created through great sacrifice. Usagi begins episode 6 by banging on Arisu's door and waking him up. Arisu says they need to gather information as soon as he wakes up. He begins speaking with various people in search of answers. He hears a gunshot and notices 3 of Hatter's men walking away from a dumpster. He approaches the dumpster and notices that it contains dead bodies. Kuina and her friend, Chishiya, approach Arisu and remind her of the 3rd rule of the beach, death to all traitors. Chishiya and Kuina speak with him and inform him that it is only a matter of time before the militants kill Hatter and take over his position. The beach will then be controlled by a horde of idiots armed with guns. Chishiya says he intends to steal the cards and flee the scene. Hatter must leave the beach temporarily to attend a game and extend his visa. However, he is returned shortly after with a bullet in his chest. The executives disagree on who should be the next leader. Aguni's men point their weapons at the executives, forcing them to vote for Aguni. Chishiya has persuaded Arisu to assist him with his plan, and when Aguni delivers his inaugural speech as the new leader, Chishiya leads Arisu to the leader's room. He gives him the code to open the safe and retrieve the cards, but the code is incorrect, and it appears that Chishiya has set Arisu up. Arisu is restrained to a chair, and they inform him that his visa is running out of time, and there is nothing he can do about it. When the laser drills his head, they abandon him. Usagi is arrested and mistreated as well. Chishiya enters the leader's room and steals the cards. He is about to flee the beach when he meets with Kuina, who tells him that he should be feeling guilty about setting up Arisu. Chishiya realizes, however, that he cannot leave because the beach has been transformed into a game arena, and the lasers will not allow anyone to pass through the exit. The monitors and speakers announce that everyone is required to report to the lobby for the game. Everyone gathers in the lobby except Arisu, who is restrained. People get their phones, and then there's a woman dead on the floor with a knife through her chest. The 6th episode concludes with the announcement of the game and its rules. The game is called Witch Hunt, and the goal is to track down the person who murdered that woman and burn them in the fire of justice. There will be a 2-hour time limit. The beginning of episode 7 is packed with action. People blame Asahi, a girl who used to be friends with the deceased woman, and want to throw her into the fire that is burning in the backyard. Mira, one of the executives, intervenes and declares that everyone is equally responsible, and says that everyone will have to explain and prove what they have been doing for the past hour. People question and as she holds a napkin with a blood stain in her hand, and reveals that the blood is Hatter's. She extracted the bullet from his body, which belonged to the type of guns found on the beach. Hatter was assassinated as well. Aguni enters the room with his men and declares that everyone else in the room, except him, could be the witch. He threatens to burn everyone if the witch does not step forward. Aguni's men open fire in the air, causing chaos. Yusagi flees with Asahi and the last phone that would have belonged to Arisu. Aguni's men begin killing people and burning them in the hope that one of them will be the witch and the game will be over. Meanwhile, Yusagi meets Tada, whom she has known since the tag game, and they form an alliance. At the same time, Kuina and Shishiya are watching the action from a control room via cameras. Kuina notices and looking for something in a room and quickly joins her. She asks what she's doing, and insists she's looking for a chemical substance to apply to the knife in the hopes of finding some fingerprints on it. She reveals that before coming here, she worked in forensics. Last boss, one of Aguni's guards, gets in the way. Kuina tells N to go and that she might be able to clear the game while she deals with this guy. N departs, and Kuina begins fighting with Last Boss. They exchange backstories while fighting. Last Boss was a blogger who never got the attention he desired and saw an opportunity to reinvent himself when this new world emerged. Kuina was a young man who used to train in karate with his father. But one day, his father discovered cosmetics in his room and threw him out. When we return to the action, Kuina defeats and kills Last Boss with her karate skills. Arisu trips over his chair and scrapes the tape on the floor. He manages to get it out of his mouth and screams for help. Yusagi, Tada, and Asahi are walking through the corridors when they hear something. Yusagi is able to hear Arisu and locates him. Arisu begins to consider the game after she releases him. He claims that he must think in the manner of the Game Master. He claims that the Game Master waited for the right moment to begin this game, and that it was not a coincidence. And examines the knife at the same time and declares that she knows who did it. When she attempts to flee the room, she is attacked by two of Aguni's men. While thinking, Arisu leaps to his feet and declares that he believes he knows who the witch is, signaling the end of Episode 7. Aguni and his men have cornered all of the remaining players at the start of Episode 8. Aguni orders his men to kill everyone, but they are hesitant. Arisu approaches them and tells them that this has to stop. He claims that Aguni knows he can't be the witch because he has him bound. If Aguni is not the witch, he will want to collaborate with Arisu to find the witch. Aguni beats Arisu before admitting he is the witch. However, Arisu informs everyone that Aguni is not the witch. He assassinated Hatter but not the girl. The guilt of killing your friends can be seen in his eyes. According to Arisu, Aguni could have taken over the beach because he possessed the guns, but he and Hatter were actually friends. The episode flashes back to earlier events, showing Aguni astounded by how Hatter had transformed himself into a monster and killed many people because they had hidden their cards from him. Following that, we see what happened when Hatter went to play in a game in order to extend his visa. Aguni informed him that he wishes to leave the beach because he has lost his only friend, Hatter. Hatter wanted to shoot him because his third rule was death to all traitors, but Aguni shot him first. And now Aguni wishes to bring everyone down with him. Arisu claims that the girl stabbed herself and that she is the witch. It was all part of the Game Master's plan to play with their hearts. Arisu believes that the killing of innocent people must cease. Asahi stands in front of everyone and claims to be a game dealer before being hit by a laser. The fire of judgment grows even hotter, and they take the witch's body to burn. Arisu and Yusagi watch a video Asahi left on her phone the next day. She and her friend awoke in an empty Tokyo, only to be approached by a man. They were assigned as dealers, assistants to help facilitate the games, or as fake players to intentionally confuse the real players. In exchange, they would gain 2 weeks of life. Of course, if they said anything, they would be killed. Asahi secretly filmed himself walking into the secret base where the Game Masters were hiding. They watched the games and placed bets on their favorite players while laughing at their opponent's anguish. Arisu and Yusagi go there, but everyone is killed by the signature lasers. Shishiya and Kuina also walk in that area and have a brief conversation. They claim that these people were not Game Masters. Someone is watching over them. They are interrupted by an emergency broadcasting. Mira delivers a brief speech in which she summarizes the situation by stating that the surviving players will play more games, this time against the face cards. Orisa claims that this time they know who their adversary is. Season 1 concludes with the new group of 4 staring at air balloons carrying face card banners while waiting for the new games to begin.